All right, here we are. The first day of school. I am your host, Shannon Holden from newteacherhelp.com, and we're going to talk about the first day of school. So your first day of school is your seating chart, your discipline plan, your syllabus, and using the old-fashioned KWL chart to identify high-maintenance students. We're going to talk about that today. And we're going to do it very quickly because if you miss anything, you can always rewind and watch again. So the first day, you've got to have your seating chart in place because your seating chart is the way that you set the tone for the school year. You are in control of what happens in your classroom. Your discipline plan is the way you set the tone for the school year and make sure that you are in control of what happens in the classroom. So we're going to talk about those today. Your discipline plan, there is a sample discipline plan that you can download. It's inside this course, and you can print it out, and you'll notice I only have 5 rules. And if anyone violates any of those 5 rules, then I have 4 different levels that I use. And also there's a severe clause, which if something is just totally out of control and over the top, then you can enact the severe clause. But for most things that happen in your classroom, there are 4 levels. Level 1, your student will sign the discipline book, and there will be sheets that you can download and print out, punch holes in them and place them in a binder. So your discipline book will be a place for kids to take their pen, sign their name, you'll write down the offense and the date, you'll sign it, and that way when they sign it, that verifies that they actually stayed after class to talk with you about whatever it is that went on in the classroom that day. Level 1, students sign the discipline book and a teacher-student conference takes place. Level 2 is when they have to sign the discipline book again and a parent contact takes place. You'll call the parent, and instead of bringing emotion into the situation and saying, your child is making it impossible to teach my class, and getting them on the defensive, you'll simply be saying, Mrs. Zimmerman, Joey had to sign my discipline book on September the 14th due to class disruption. He was blurting out in class instead of raising his hand. And then he had to sign the discipline book on October 1st because he was throwing objects. And that's all you're doing, is you're just telling the parent that their child is signing the discipline book, and you're explaining why they had to do that. You're not getting emotional and you're not putting them on the defensive. On level 3, if a student has to sign the discipline book again, and we set this back to 0 at the end of each semester. You can set it back to 0 at the end of every 9-week period or 6-week period. That's totally up to you. I used to do semesters. Level 3, students sign the discipline book and then they spend some time in the thinking chair. And the thinking chair was a place at the back of the room where students could be isolated. Sometimes I had an agreement with teachers in my hallway, maybe my next door neighbor. They could spend some time in that classroom instead of my classroom to kind of think about what they did. And then I bring them back. I usually did not put them in the thinking chair for the number of minutes that exceed their age. So if they're 12, they wouldn't be in the thinking chair for more than 12 minutes. Level 4, student signs the discipline book, and then the student receives a disciplinary referral to the office. Now remember, when you write that referral, you're going to have all of the different steps that you've taken, the dates which you took them, and what that does is that puts the administrator in a situation where they can't just give that student a warning and send them back to class, because you've gone through all of these steps to try to help this student. You've gone through all these steps to handle the disciplinary situation in your classroom. And so when that student makes it to the office, there's going to be some disciplinary consequences for that student. So you're also going to explain your syllabus, especially in the secondary grades. In elementary school, maybe not, but your syllabus should explain what your class is about and your expectations for students. Establish a routine as quickly as possible because kids want to know the rules. Another thing I do is use a KWL chart, and the reason why I do that is I can identify which of my students are going to need the most attention. My KWL chart, let's say I teach algebra. I would say, what do you know about algebra? What do you want to know about algebra? And then the third question is, what have I learned about algebra? And of course, they can't answer that question yet. Obviously, students will have to answer the L question later. But watch when students answer the K and the W questions. Students that answer nothing or who cares for the K and the W questions, they deserve a little asterisk next to their name in your grade book because they're probably going to be a challenging student. Other lines that I use with students on the first day of school that kind of set a tone of, you know, I'm not going to let anything that you've done in the past affect my opinion of you now. So I might say, I don't know any of you, so my impressions of you will be formed by how you perform and behave in my classroom. This is your opportunity for a clean slate. If you have behaved poorly last year or the year before that or every year, for that matter, it has no impact on this class. I want you to turn it around if you have not been performing well, and this is your opportunity. So establish a routine, set expectations, foster a sense of community within the class. Make sure that you give them the impression it's a safe place to learn and that they're going to be collaborating with their classmates. And that's the way you build relationships in your classroom. So you have to be organized from day one, and you have to keep meticulous records, because if you don't, the kids will pick up on that. You have to get as much information from the children during the honeymoon period, because you cannot go back. Many teachers, especially first-year teachers, discover that, man, I should have done it a lot differently, and there's no way to go back and fix that. And so now you're stuck. If you don't do it right, you're stuck just limping till the end of the school year, and then you get a whole new batch of kids that next year. Well, I don't want that to happen to you. So get accurate and reliable contact information about the parents of your students. People are constantly moving, constantly changing their cell phone numbers, getting different cell phone plans. So make sure to get as many contact numbers as you can. Because once you identify your high maintenance students, now you have to find a way to call home with positive news. That will get the parent on your side. And in the inevitable event, hopefully it's not inevitable, but in the event that you have to call home with bad news and that you're having to take disciplinary steps with a child, the parent will be more willing to listen to your input because you've already called them with good news. So tell the mom all of the contact information that you have, and then let her dictate to you in what order you were to use those. Some folks don't like to be bothered at work. They would rather you leave a message on their cell. Some folks would rather you call their place of employment and not their cell. So, and then there's all sorts of people who don't have home phones anymore. That's really a thing of the past when you think about it, although some people still have a landline phone. My secret weapon, I only use this when it's totally necessary, so don't use this frivolously. Some parents ignore calls when they see on their caller ID that it's from the school. So I will ask a student, hey, do you have your phone on you? And of course they say yes, because when do they not have their phone? Have them call home on their phone. And you will find that the phone call does not get ignored. It's answered right away. And then you can have the student talk a little bit about what's going on. And then you can get on the phone if need be and explain the situation to the parent. Don't be fooled by the honeymoon period. It is a period of time when students do not act like they normally act. And the honeymoon period can last a couple of days, maybe all the way up to 2 weeks. So don't relax your rules because you're saying to yourself, wow, these students are so well behaved. I don't even really need to enforce my discipline plan. This will be needed because sooner or later you will experience the first transgressor. This person will achieve level 2 status on your discipline plan, and you will have to make that phone call. If you don't make that phone call, word will get around. If you do make the phone call, word will get around that you actually do make phone calls home. There are tons of teachers out there who do not make phone calls home. As a matter of fact, they bluff and say they will, and then they don't, and they're just setting themselves up for heartache and pain So you will distinguish yourself from the rest, and it won't take long, because when you make that phone call to a student's parents, word will get around and people will say, this person means business. So that is how you take care of your class, and you set the tone for a new school year. So make sure to go through all the lessons in the New Teacher Help course here on Digital Learning Tree. And if you have any questions, make sure to email us or contact us. My email address is newteacherhelp@yahoo.com.